Hey guys, it's your girl Aisha, aka Geek XX Chic, and we're back with another review to The Walking Dead. We're now going to be discussing episode 12, which is called All or Nothing. So this episode, I feel like, was the expose to kind of more of Hornsby's plan, the guy I've been calling the politician. We kind of got a little bit more insight into what he's really about. I mean, it's not a shock to me because I'm sorry, from the second I saw the actor and the way he was smiling in that video and the way he always interacted with the Alexandrians, I knew he was crazy, quite frankly. And that there is, that's all just the veneer. It's a face that he thinks people trust when really there's a lot of ugly underneath it. And I was just waiting to see what would be the trigger to seeing that side of him. And now Maggie seems to be that trigger. Which is not, honestly, it doesn't surprise me. I feel like he probably doesn't like the idea that Maggie is also a woman that is standing up to him this way, especially when another woman is already telling him what to do. I feel like there's a lot of fragile ego issues going on there on top of everything else. But yeah, we saw that the reason he even wanted to get to because I kept wondering that, like, why would he care about Alexandria? Why would he, what would be the interest in this relative, like in comparison, tiny community that has literally nothing to offer outside of people? Like, why would they really be so interested in keeping them and rebuilding it, right? Like, there has to be something he's after. There has to be a bigger, higher payout, right? Because it doesn't make sense to expend the resources and from people to actual physical resources, all of that for a community that cannot repay it anytime soon, right? So now we're getting a little bit of insight into what it is. And apparently Hornsby is thinking about basically building an empire. Like, him and Pamela are on the same side, are on the same page as far as their delusions of grandeur of rebuilding the world the way it was, right? We heard Pamela saying this episode, oh, this world's out of its natural order. We need to restore it. And it's like, honey, there's nothing natural about the dead getting up and walking around. Like, that is, there's been a huge upset to the order, and the world has to adapt. Like, until, if there is, like, I mean, of course, we know as a la Kirkman, there will never be a cure. But even if there was a cure, if there was one they could get to, you'd need to have that cure out there before humanity can even think about restoring. Because the reality is that there's always more dead people than alive at any given time when you think about it, right? So yeah, the fact that people keep dying and the dead keep, remunerating, and God, if, we look at what happened in, in The World Beyond, which for those who haven't seen it, I won't spoil it, but yeah, like, this is not a race that Pamela or Hornsby are going to win based on the old system of things. And that's kind of what's wrong with them, is that they're very much stuck in the world before it fell and thinking that it's just going to be a matter of a little bit of cleanup and, we're going to just go back to normal. And they want to be at the top of that heap when it happens, right? But yeah, it was kind of interesting to see, like, Pamela doing this tour, getting out from behind the security of the Commonwealth. I don't think she does that often. She probably maybe does her little hunting trips whenever it suits her to make her feel like she's still powerful. But it's very clear, like, that, especially when she went to visit Maggie and, well, actually, through all of it, actually. Like, I thought it was interesting that she knew Deanna, because we haven't seen any references to Deanna in a long-ass time, or even her picture, for that matter. But it doesn't surprise me. The political circle, especially in and around DC, is very tiny. Most people do know each other. But, and I actually forgot that Deanna was a politician, too. That was something that was brought out way back in season 5, 6, but I digress. You could see when she was out there, and she was saying, like, when Aaron was explaining and showing everything, and she was like, oh, you guys fell more than one. Because she really thought that they had one. This was like the first fall they'd ever had. And he's like, no, like, we literally, Alexandria, we've almost lost it like 10 times. We've had, damage happen here before by 2 different factions. Like, he's like, no, this is like our 4th or 5th go round with trying to rebuild this place. I mean, this was by far the worst devastation Alexandria suffered. But, you could see she was shocked. She didn't realize that this has been a continuous process of losing and rebuilding and losing and rebuilding. She really thought that, like, the only way they could have lasted this long is if they had been untouched or unsullied the way the Commonwealth was. So there's a little bit of a disconnect, clearly, with Pamela. She has been behind, like, from the sounds of things, they've been behind the walls since day one. So she really doesn't understand what it's like out there. She's not the first clue. And the thing is, you can hear people's stories, and you can empathize to some degree on the emotions that they might have felt, and you can definitely feel sympathy for some of the things they've gone through. But if you've never gone through anything even remotely close, you cannot understand. You just can't, right? I can hear someone tell me the story of being a refugee or going through a war or going through some horrific trauma. But if I've not gone through something like that myself, I will never fully relate to that. I will never be able to fully understand what that journey is. Right. And that's what it is with Pamela. She really thinks that she understands things because she's got people who've come into the community and told her their sob story. And she's like, oh, yes, I feel, oh, yes, that moved me. Oh, my tears are here. So therefore I understand. Like, no, you don't, Pam. Sorry, Pam, you really don't have any idea what it's like out there. You have no idea what true grit means in the sense of the world in this craziness that's outside of the walls of the Commonwealth. And I think she got a little bit of a wake-up call when she got out there and realized, like you can see, she's still, like I said, everything about the way that she and Hornsby present themselves show how disconnected they are. Like if she really wanted to appeal to a Maggie, or, I mean, even to the Oceanside girl, you don't show up in your cleanest clothes and driving your you having your horse-drawn tank. And you know what I mean? Like, you don't do that. And I said this way back when, was it about 2 episodes ago when Hornsby showed up in his 3-piece suit to the people who'd literally just been weather beaten and who've been starving and are dirty. And like, they don't need to see that, right? And like, you heard what Pamela said, oh, I give the people something to look up to. It's like, that doesn't work for everybody though. Like it's true in the traditionalist American capitalist society, the people who look a certain way and drive the cars and have the houses, it does drive some people. And that's what the American dream is built on, is greed and capitalism. But that isn't everybody's dream, right? There's a lot of people out there who have no desire to live that life. Like they might want to have money. Like the basics that every human being wants is to be safe, to be fed, to be warm, to have their family and the people they care about safe, and basically to have the freedom to do what it is that they want to do. That is all the people want. That's it. The varying degrees comes with that, with wealth. Obviously, wealth allows you to have all these things, right? Which is why a lot of people try to get wealth. But there's also a lot of people who don't want, or for them, this doesn't mean having the biggest house, driving the shiniest car, having designer clothes, constantly working to get to that next level of financial prowess, right? Like for some people, if they can achieve this, it might be living at a quote unquote medium wage, or, you know, like it's not to be luxury, I guess is my point. So Pamela should, if she was really someone who is in tune with people and wanting to be a person of the people, she'd realize that not everybody is the same. And in Maggie's case, like I said, Maggie is a country girl. She has been since we first met her. She was raised on a farm, lived out there with her daddy. I mean, they had all these things, and they would have been considered fairly wealthy, right? Because most farmers in North America do quite well if you think of their overall financial position. But she wasn't a fancy girl. You know, Maggie wasn't out here looking for nice cars and dresses even before the world fell. She was perfectly happy living out on her farm with her dad, going out there and doing farm things. And Glenn, well, I mean, that definitely would have been an adjustment for Glenn. But Glenn was more than happy to do whatever Maggie wanted because he was in love with her. But you get my point. Like, that was never Maggie's thing. Maggie just wants these things that I just noticed. And she doesn't really need all the frill and the frou-frou around that. She just wants to survive. And more importantly, this last one, freedom, is the big thing to Maggie. And she's not just talking about freedom to like explore what she likes, but freedom to do what she wants, true freedom. And that's something that since the world fell and there's no longer like this hierarching government and controls, people can kind of live any way they want to, really, truly, the way it would have been, say, thousands of years ago before the world kind of became a global community. So that part is where Maggie is not ready to pay that price, as she brought up there, right? And nothing is for free. And the price of all these things that the Commonwealth is trying to sell to her is that she's got to give up that freedom in the sense that she wants it. Would she still have some modicum of freedom? Of course, but it wouldn't be the true freedom that she's used to. And I said that as soon as I saw the Commonwealth come in, I'm like, Maggie is not going to be down for this because she's been running her own show for a long ass time. And she's not going to be willing to just start taking orders from somebody else at this point. She's been a leader for too long and she's been on her own for too long. So anyway, that's something that I feel like I said, if Pam and Hornsby had really done their homework, they would have realized showing up the way that they did was not the way to appeal to Maggie. I feel like they shouldn't have even tried to convert her on that first visit. They should have just gone and spent a day in her life and understood her and shown that they had any interest of understanding her. I think that would have made such a huge difference for Maggie. I'm not saying she would have signed up, but I think it would have opened her mind a lot more. But they just kind of, like I said, came in with that condescension, which they don't even realize that they have, but they do. And of course, Maggie didn't like it. She picked up on it. She knows it's not true. She knows there's a veneer there. And the fact that she was asking Hornsby directly what he wanted, and he just kind of went off on his weird vision of grandeur and didn't just give her a straight up answer, which is power, really. That's all it comes down to. She's like, I can't trust you people. I need people that I can talk to and have real conversations with if I'm supposed to be a respected leader of my community that you're going to help with. And they don't see her as an equal, and that's why they didn't tell her the truth. So anyways, I understand why Maggie did what she did, but on the other side of things, we saw at the end that some of her people said, you know what, we got to go. And that's the thing that, the one girl, I never know her name, the archer, she's like, look, Maggie, it's not that we don't love you and respect you. You know we do, but like, you do have to know when to ask for help. And it's true. Like, there's nothing left of of Hilltop. The walls are barely intact. Everything was burnt down by Alpha and her people. The Horde came through, ripped, destroyed pretty much everything else. There's no food. There's barely any water. And you heard like what's her name? What's Alpha's daughter's name? Her name just slipped right out of my head. But you heard her saying that they can't even sleep properly because they're not safe, right? So it's like, I know Maggie's used to this because like she said, her and Herschel are literally out on the road exposed for God knows how long. But for everybody else, like they're soft now, you know what I'm saying? And not even soft, but you know what I mean? Like Alexandria provide a modicum of protection, right? So they were able to at least sleep and relax, but they haven't had that in a long time now. And now they're starting to feel that strain, and to see, especially what happened with all the walkers at the perimeter, they would have been fighting them for like the next 25, 30 minutes at least. And that was hoping that none of them got hurt or bitten in the process. Commonwealth comes, my man Mercer just yells out fire, everybody dead, let's all get lunch, right? Like you can't, I do not blame her for being like, nah, this is too easy. This is too nice. Like, why are we struggling? All we've done is struggle for the last 10 years. Can we stop struggling now? So I do understand why some of her people felt that way. And I think it's going to continue, right? Because they did the right thing. Because, Hornsby's not dumb. There's a reason why he made sure to bring all the food and the medical supplies and on the soldiers. And then, of course, to say, oh, do you mind if we give out supplies since we have an overabundance? We really it's so much. It's going to go in the garbage. Like, to say all this when these people have literally been scraping. You saw how excited that one guy was over 2 damn chickens, which is not enough to feed everybody there. Let's be real. Like, of course they're going to be tempted. Of course they're going to be like, why am I going to be out here struggling, blood, sweat, and tears when I'm not even sure if I'm going to be able to make it to the week end with food and water? Like, you know what I'm saying? So I get it. I get where Maggie's coming from. I do. I understand that she doesn't want to pay that price and that she knows that there's more to this than what is being presented. But I also think that her being a little bit judgmental of Daryl and overall Alexandria for taking that, I thought was a little bit like, Maggie, like you might be wanting to rough it, but not everybody's going to want to feel the same. It's an interesting situation. I think we're going to, like I said, we're obviously seeing what's going to lead up to what happened in that preview, but I don't know what the right answer is. Like, I do believe her in that trusting the Commonwealth completely would be a mistake, but at the same time, like Hilltop's not in a place that's really defensible at the moment. Not truly. And I don't know if it's willing, like, I mean, maybe Maggie's willing to die for it, but I also feel like she should be thinking about Herschel. And is this really something like you want your son to die for this too? Like, you really just think he should go without forever because you have this belief system? Like I said, it's not easy, but we'll have to see. It looks like eventually Hornsby's going to try to take it by force. And well, we all know that that's not going to go over very well. And it looks like the sad part of it is that potentially Daryl is going to be with the Commonwealth on this one. So we'll see what that happens there. Because, Maggie and Daryl they're like bro and sis. We don't want to see the family fighting. Not about this. Outside of that, we had a little bit more of Eugene and his drama with Stephanie. It wasn't the focal point of the episode, but yeah, we saw that he's still very much depressed and confused, but I think that he's trying to find the silver lining in all of this. Like the fact that he had the conversation with Rosita, and Rosita's like, look, I know this isn't perfect. I know that there's still like factors we need to consider, but the reality is my daughter is safe. I'm safe. We can be together in a safe place. That's something that we didn't know if we would be able to have, especially in the last couple of months. So I think that that's kind of a little bit of compensation for Eugene for all of the lying and the falsehoods and being betrayed the way that he was. Like, okay, if the very least someone he does care about and the people he does care about have benefited somewhat from this, then he kind of feels like maybe it's not the worst thing in the world. But I understand that it still hurts, right? It's an ego bruise. It's definitely a heartbreak. And like I said, he's probably doubting whether or not he even has the ability to properly judge people anymore after being so thoroughly taken for a ride by what he wanted, really. And that's the other thing. I think that what's also bothering him is that deep down in his gut, he kind of knew. He knew this was probably not right. He knew things were off, but he wanted this thing with Stephanie to work so badly. And he was so desperate, of course, to also have like food and clothing and shelter and safety that he just kind of ignored those warning bells. And now he's probably kicking himself a bit for doing that. But I'm glad that Rosita was there to be a friend. And in the end, like I said, you saw in the episode, I don't exactly agree with like, why is Max mad at him? Like the fact that she's like, I'm so mad that you didn't know it wasn't me. Like, which what? Like, I'm sorry, you know I'm usually team woman, but on this one, listen, women are like this. You out here keeping your mouth shut. You out here not telling the truth. Because the thing is, you talked to Eugene more. You actually were the one who talked to Eugene. Shira never did. There was a couple of communications that were picked up on, but when they figured it out, but obviously they didn't know about the whole thing going on. There was a few things she knew, but not everything. Like, my point is that Max should have known enough that if she'd gone to Eugene in secret and been like, listen, here's the situation, Eugene would not have blown up her spot. You know what I'm saying? He would have still been upset, but he would have blown up her spot. But I mean, in fairness, Eugene is terrible at lying. So and he probably would have ended up like letting on that he knew the truth. But still, I'm just kind of like, ma'am, you did participate in the lie. You did not precipitate the lie. You did not necessarily actively participate. But the fact that you didn't say anything, that is passive participation. Okay. That is literally being an accomplice. So really, you owe Eugene an apology because he got taken for a ride and you saw that he was getting emotionally invested and you still didn't say anything. So sorry. In my opinion, you do not deserve an apology. He deserves an apology. And you should be giving him some grace to be upset and be frustrated and really just try to put his whole shit back together after you all destroyed it. But that's me. But anyhow, I'm sure they'll be fine. I mean, in a way, I guess, like, I understand where she's coming from. She is in love with Eugene. And the fact that she kind of, I guess, felt like they had this soulmate connection that he should have just known. Believe me, as a woman, I know we do dumb stuff like this. We expect men to know things that they'd have to be psychic to know. But yeah, I think hopefully with time she'll realize that she doesn't really have any reason to be upset with Eugene in this, like, at least long term. Like, she can be upset that he was rude to her, but like, this is definitely a forgivable offense in the grand scheme. And honestly, I think that their connection is going to be instrumental in figuring out what the hell is going on in this place and figuring out what's going down here. Because there's definitely a lot of corruption, which, I mean, we've known this since the beginning, but there's a lot going on here. And now seeing that Hornsby is kind of nuts, and by kind of, I mean completely. And Pamela too, the fact that I didn't realize her and Hornsby were actually related. I shouldn't say related. There's something, because she said since we were kids. So she's known his ass a long ass time. And she knows that there is something going on with Hornsby. She definitely knows that he's up to some shady stuff. So there is even more layers to this. And I just don't understand how our communities come into the middle of it all. But I'm sure they're showing us this for a reason. So I'm going to ride it out and see what that is. And then finally we have a little touching on the whole situation with Ezekiel, and he has been moved up. Carol, she came through helping out Hornsby, and Hornsby came through by returning the favor and getting Ezekiel bumped up on the surgery list. I knew he was going to look that gift horse in the mouth as much as I didn't want him to, but I'm glad in the end he just took it. I thought it was so funny the way that he, Carol was trying to be all fake surprised, like, oh my God, really? You got moved up? Wow. And then as soon as she did her fake surprise, he was like, you did this, didn't you? I said, y'all, Carol and Ezekiel are soulmates. I'm so mad that they're not together. They probably won't end up that way, but soulmates. That man knows that woman better than she thinks she knows. But anyway, but I do think that obviously there's going to be more to it. I don't think it's, just that one task she did for Hornsby will be enough. I'm sure he's going to use that as something to hold over Carol's head. But if there's anybody I'm not worried about in this community, it is Carol. Okay. If Hornsby becomes too much of a problem, he's going to come up missing. We all know that. So yeah, that was kind of a nice, lighter, kind of happier side to the episode. What was overall kind of a bit sad when you think about it. But it definitely leaves the door open for what, like I said, what is the whole point of all of this? Why is Hornsby going to cause more trouble? Like, why is this internal fighting going on in the Commonwealth really directly kind of ripple affecting into our people? These are answers that I'm hoping we're going to get before the season ends, but I'm not sure if we're going to get them. And like I said, I keep thinking it's going to segue into something that's going to be like a post project, but we're not going to know until we just keep watching. So that's exactly what I'm going to do. So I hope you guys enjoyed watching this review. If you did, I'd appreciate it if you gave this video a thumbs up, and we will see you in the next video.